Alright, hey, welcome back to another Final Cut Pro tutorial. Not that I have things figured out, but I figured for those of you who want some tips, maybe this would be helpful for you, especially in the area, if you've seen the title of this video, color grading, and specifically in white balance. Now this is something that took me a little bit to figure out, and I'm still figuring it out. But with these couple of suggestions and tips, I hope that it can become a little easier for you in post if you mess up the white balance on the run and gun, because that's happened to me many a time, as you'll see in my clips here. I've already done some pre-work, but let me walk you through some of the adjustments that I make right off the bat. In this picture here, if you notice in the background, I got the really warm lighting, trying to catch white balance for that, and then also going now outside without, doing it on auto and it being all over the place. I had to kind of pick my poison, and so I went for the warm lighting. You can see that things just don't look exactly right. Things are just a little blue. So here are a few things that I do in order to get my white balance correct. The first thing is that I make sure that my waveform is up, and this is my waveform RGB parade. This gives me a good idea of what my colors are doing. You can see in this shot there's a ton of blue, and so it's not compensating obviously for skin tones and all those other things. Oftentimes, especially if I'm using my MacBook Pro for editing and I don't have my bigger screen, I'll go ahead and just make that bigger by shutting off the clips section. The second thing that I'll do is I'll go to View and I'll come down here to Range Check Luma. This just gives me an idea of what's blown out, where my exposure is. And so the first thing that I'll do is I'll make sure that I get my exposure correct for this shot. First thing that I'll do is I'll go ahead and select the clip. I'll come up here, go to my color board. As you can see here, I have already brought my exposure all the way up. I don't care about the background scene as much as I care about making sure that they're lit. So when I turn this on, you'll see that I already get a little different look. The back is blown out, but I have them lit a lot better. And what the Luma check does is basically gives me a cheat for looking at this 0 line up here, as well as the 100 line for the highlights. It's just a way to see it actually on the subjects themselves. So I recommend it. It helps me out a ton. Maybe there's professionals that wouldn't want to do it. They just want to eyeball it. But for me, it helps. So this is looking better already. However, you can also see that their skin tones are a little off. Things seem a little cool. So what I'll do oftentimes is I'll come down here and I'll add a color wheel. I realize that for many of you, probably the majority of you, you just use color wheels by yourselves. I learned on the color board, in my mind, it just works better that way, and I know you can do everything through the color wheels. If you'd like to do it that way, awesome, because you can do all of the shadows, highlights, all of those things right here. That's perfectly fine. But for me, I come to color wheels just to work on color alone. So here's a few things that I've done on this one. If you notice, I've brought the temperature all the way up. So this is what it used to look like. And now I've brought it all the way to 1000, meaning my white balance was way, way off. I also have the tint at 30. Notice that the tint was here. This is what it looked like before, and now I've brought it up here. That gives a lot of warmth. And then if I bring this up to 30, you can add just a little orange back into that. Maybe not all the way to 30, but here already this is looking way, way better compared to this. Dark, bright, dark, bright. I'm not going to spend much time on the actual color correction because, as you can see, everything's really, really saturated and blown out here. So let's move on to this other one. This was obviously in daylight, so this one's going to look a little different. I again have my color board and then also my color wheels. If we click on our color board, let's just go ahead and correct this. So we'll bring highlights down to where nothing's buzzing, and then I'll bring my shadows down until I start seeing those, and I'll back it back off, and now my highlights are a little out of whack. Okay, so that's a great start. Typically the mids I'll leave alone. I mean, unless something's really dark or I want something to match another tone that's of a different shot, then I'll mess around with the mids. Otherwise, I usually just kind of keep them neutral and just do the shadows and the highlights. So once I have that looking good, then I'll come over here to color wheels and I'll activate that one. And basically, put that back to 0. Let me get these back. So this is just really using your eyes. Something else that I'll do is I'll try to find her dress, because her dress is actually in the middle of this parade right here, and you just kind of start learning what to look for. And if you scrub through, you can see as the people move, you can see the parade, so you can kind of start saying, all right, that whole dark area there is the window up there, and now I kind of see her movement with the flowers right in the middle. Somewhat hard to see where she is in this, but I'm guessing it's going to be kind of in this middle range. Her dress is probably the most accurate white in this scenario, so I'll just make sure that it's just tweaked a little. I mean, you can kind of play around, you can kind of see things go crazy here, but I'll just tweak it just a smidge to try to get those a little more lined up. And then I also like to just bring down the blacks just to kind of see where a dark area is, and then I match it with the lower end, and then I just try to bring all of those together so they match. So maybe we'll go with one of these low points right here, which I think would match the inside of her hair. And this just gives me what black should really look like. So right there, I think if you really want to see the skin tones, you can come here to your vector scope, and then you can look to see, this is the skin tone line, and you can see if that's pretty on. So this is before, this is after, and this is before you'd add a LUT at the end. So this is looking really, really nice. I like this look. Let's just go to a final one. So this one was very interesting. This venue had a very nice white room, but then you had her white dress. My guess is that the actual paint in the building had some green tones to it. It was like a greenish white. I'm not exactly sure, but I had a lot of issues. It just looks green overall. I'll show you two things. One is you can do the technique that I've been showing you. So you can actually work on specifically, again in this one, the color board, bringing up those highlights. So I'm going ahead and making sure that there's nothing sparkling on her dress. I'll just take it all away so there's nothing going on there. I have brought the mids down, and I'll show you why I did that in a second. I'll just keep them here for now. And then I also brought the shadows down there. I've been doing this technique where you do a color board and then you bring your color wheels in, and you can get it looking pretty decent. Here we don't have a whole lot of saturation, so we can see that dress a little better. But I had to make a judgment call as to what is the actual white in this room. Is it the dress or is it the wall? And my hunch is that the dress is probably a little more off-white than the actual wall. So I went ahead, and this is the wall over here. And so I went ahead and brought those, okay, and I white balanced for those for the wall back there. So you can see the dress is a little off-white. And then brought the shadows down as well. If you'll see here, probably our darker side is over on this side, so I'll go ahead and bring that up just a little bit. And there you go. So that's what I came up with the white balance. And you can definitely see here Here's another way that you can do this as well. So you can actually use a tool within Final Cut Pro that is very, very nice. Go up over here to the magic wand, and then I can just go down to balance color. When I click that, it automatically finds what white balance is. Okay, and this is what it came up with. This is the program itself. So let's match that. I'm going to slide this over and match it to what I came up with. So this is me, this is them, me, them, me, them. I think it's dead on. So I did a pretty good job of determining what the white was. Here's something else that you can do to just check it. I can go up here, click the speaker, and then I can actually select what I want it to determine as white. And of course it depends where you click, where the shadows are, all of those different things as to what color white you're actually going to get. So that's my process. Perhaps it's not very scientific or very repeatable. I hope that it is. I hope that makes sense. But you can see in all of these situations that we brought something that looked really dark and not colorful, and we brought it to life. I think brought the skin tones back in. We also made sure that the white balance was accurate for the lighting that was presented. And you can tweak these things. I believe white balance changes from shadows, especially if you have it in auto white balance. You'll run into this issue where it'll just start jumping subtly from one hue to another of what it believes with the white, the accurate white is in a picture, and it can go like this shot right here with the bride. It could give you, depending on the angle of your shot, it could give you 3 or 4 different white balances as you work through there. So there you go. That's the process that I use to find white balance. It has saved me many, many different times. It can be very frustrating, especially as a run and gun wedding photographer or videographer, as well as doing other projects, to find what your white balance is. You can go from warm indoor incandescent lights to LED lights, which are very cool, and everything in between. You can do that within a matter of minutes. So it's really, really hard sometimes on the fly to figure all of this out. I know it has been for me. There is no magic wand, even in the balance check tool that Final Cut Pro has. It's awesome, but I found that it doesn't always do the best job. So I don't know, take it for what it's worth. Happy white balancing correction in the future. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you on the next one.